'Tis my monstrosity of a creation, my Frankenstein, my Flounderstein. Yeah, I know, no one's laughing at it. Like, let's just get on before it gets to tomorrow. Hi, hello, buongiorno, Annabelle here from Annabelle and Ben's Antics, and today, guys, we're going to be making Flounder from The Little Mermaid. The animated one, of course, because no one wants to make that other weird-looking fish. And not only will we be making Flounder, but we are going to be making him into a bag. However, when I decided to take on this project, I was planning on entering Ariel into a cosplay competition, and with it being about 2 weeks away at the time, I knew I couldn't draft the pattern alone. And so I went off to the shops and chose a Flounder toy from Target to sacrifice. So we came home, and we put Flounder down, and now Lily is hugging him because you know we is going to cut him up, is that correct? After one set of snuggles so that he could die happy, next up was unstuffing and unpicking all the poor fish's parts. But then... So I am currently unpicking Flounder, and I decided to start with his belly, and yeah, I'm guessing these beads are some kind of like silicone absorption of moisture to stop him like from rotting from the inside. What it looks like is that this fish has an egg sac inside him, and that's really freaking strange and hilarious, so I thought I should mention it. Target toys, guys, you never know what you're gonna find in there. It's not often I take apart a mass production item, but I must admit I'm always fascinated when I do, and my main takeaway from this was the tiny seam allowance they were working with. As I separated each piece, also unpicking any darts that helped to give it shape, they were labelled and traced onto a piece of paper before I went over it in pen with a curved ruler to smooth out any lines. And if you're wondering why I'm making my own rather than converting the one I brought, honestly it comes down to the fact that I think this is going to earn more points in the competition, and also I wanted to make the whole thing a bit bigger and to scale, so once it was all drawn out I took my usual flat photos with a ruler next to each piece and digitized the pattern, making some adjustments to make the shapes a little bit more natural before expanding it, as I again wanted a big fish. Side note, if you want to make your own Flounder bag, the pattern for this is actually up on both my Ko-Fi and my Patreon page, and if you're a Patreon member, this pattern is free. Are we getting to the point where I need a website for my patterns? Yes we are, and it is coming. It is just not here quite yet. So that is all of the pieces cut out, and I have sorted them into piles based on what colour they need to be cut out of. So this is my yellow pile, light blue, dark blue, and other random bits and pieces like the eyes, which technically need 3 whole colours on, but you know, we're good. We're very good. I am super pleased with this. Now to cut it all out, stick it together, and I'm gonna have a very large fish to hopefully put all of the things that I could possibly want while at the convention in. While I'm using this extra stuff minky fleece for the outside of the fish, the inside is being lined by this Ariel fabric that I found in a charity shop. There's not much of it, but it should be just enough for the inside of the bag at the very least. On that note, the first thing I cut out was the lining and a second layer of this black and white fabric that was left over from my Victorian coat mock-up. See Instagram for my progress on that project so that I can essentially make the inside into small pillows and slip the outer skin right over the top. Side note, this pattern has 25 separate pieces, and that makes this soft toy one of the biggest patterns I have ever created. With that done, I pinned all of the darts in the lining and got sewing. Because I wanted to do different threads to match the fabric colours, I decided to do the inside first before starting on the outside, and that meant starting with a phone pocket so that it wouldn't get lost in my bag. Once the darts were sewn, I paired and pinned each piece with its counterpart to essentially turn them into tiny little cute pillows with a larger seam allowance than necessary. And not wanting the innards of my store-bought Flounder to go to waste, I put them into the new, larger, and hopefully better than before fish, and then stitched up those holes on my sewing machine. So we have a bunch of tiny pillows, and though these are great, we are missing the 2 main body pieces. I have run out of stuffing, which means we need to sacrifice a pillow, but the question is, what one? FYI, my living room is quite a mess because a lot of reasons, but mostly just that I haven't tidied today because I've been too busy working on Flounder. So we have a couple pillows to choose from. The ones on the sofa are obviously a no-go. The pillows that we use for the kittens are obviously a no-go. The like button I won at my first cosplay competition, so that's a no-go, which leaves these green ones from a charity shop, or the incest pillow that I also got at a charity shop. If you know, you know. Ben's been begging me to get rid of this one for ages, but honestly, just not ready to yet. It makes me laugh too much, so I suppose we're going with one of these. And the pillow, much like the original Flounder, was soon disemboweled, with its insides being floofed a little before they were put into a plastic bag. Then the stuffing and plumping of the main body parts could at last begin. And once I had a pile of weird shaped pillows, it was time to pin and stitch them all together. So I've just started sewing all the pillows together and realised I've sewn the forehead up. And you know what I wasn't supposed to do? Oh, that's right, sew the forehead up because the zip's gonna go there, and I've just kind of killed about half the length of the zip. So yeah, I'm a bit of an idiot, clearly. I now need to unpick this, split this down to where that little divot is into 2, and I suppose we'll go from there. Otherwise though, it's looking quite good and I'm fairly pleased with it. It's also going to be bigger than I was wanting. It is going to be the size that I wanted, but it's going to be fatter than I was expecting because I did not take into account how much stuffing this would need. But so far, so good. This might have taken longer than I would like to admit. However, once I was back on track, I fitted together all of the pieces as if they were some kind of fabric 3D puzzle, which, let's face it, they kind of were. And it was fun even if we ended up with this monstrosity. So occasionally in life, you've just kind of got to sit back, relax and go, what the have I created? The answer to this in this instance is a vaguely flounder shaped black and white monstrosity. Upside though, he is hollow, which means that my plan has worked and he will work as a handbag. I have also extended where I wanted the zip to go because otherwise it was going to be too small. And now that we have his lovely Ursula lined insides, I think it's about time we make his skin. Considering he is hollow, like, he's holding his structure pretty well, so I'm fairly happy with this. I'm also going to ignore all the raw seams because they're going to be on the inside. No one's going to see them. It's easier to leave it. We're just going to leave it, and that is absolutely fine. 'Tis my monstrosity of a creation, my Frankenstein, my Flounderstein. Yeah, I know, no one's laughing at it. Like, let's just get on before it gets to tomorrow. And so I looked at the many pieces needed to complete Flounder's skin and decided to start with the appliques. Now originally I was just going to pin and sew these, but then I remembered that I ordered some steam and stick off AliExpress to try, as the official stuff is expensive, and honestly, success! Just look at that happy little face. However, this was short-lived when my attempt at satin stitch just refused to take on the minky fleece. So I did the only thing I could think of on the eyes and brought out the hand stitching, but considering I had planned to satin stitch all of these, well, let's just say it did not happen, and I relied on the power of the steam and stick instead, and to be fair, it worked. It wasn't the original effect I wanted, but it worked, and so I moved on to the fins. So it is just about midnight and the applique on the fins is at last done, but we had a small problem and the minky just will not take a zigzag. Don't ask me why it won't take a zigzag, but it will not take a zigzag. Now, I've managed to do some hand stitching around the eyes, but there is no way that I have enough time to get through all of this doing hand stitching and still finish the other 2, potentially 3 items I want to do for Ariel before the competition, let alone the fact that I'm currently prepping another costume for another competition as well. So I've just done a little bit of experimenting, and what I have tried is putting some cotton on the back of the minky. Now, I'm not entirely sure I love this, but it is better than nothing, and I can fill in gaps with hand stitching. I just can't do the entire thing on my own. Hopefully it works. Fingers crossed for me, guys. I'm going to be really annoyed if it doesn't, and until then I am going to bed. Bedtime for you too, isn't it, girly bear? And yes guys, I had to wash my sheets today, so I do still need to make this before I sleep. The Shirley bear is also debating sleeping. You can tell because his paws are crossed. The next morning I started slow by pinning all of the darts on the bodies before I attached the stripes onto some steam and stick and then added them onto the body. Then I rummaged through my scrap, which happened to be sitting out for another project, and finding some cotton to use on the back of where I needed to sew before I sat down to satin stitch the fins very slowly. Still, they looked great when they were done, and so they were put right side to right side and stitched into little pillows before the curves were clipped and they were turned right side around and pinned shut. And then it was on to sewing the darts so that our fish's skin would fit on the inside of his body. I was under the impression that this bag was going to be a one-day project. Now, not only am I behind on my other cosplay competition entry, which isn't urgent, but I did want to get done this week, but this has taken me not 1, not 2, technically 2.5 days, and I am not impressed. Look, it looks wonderful. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of use out of it because at the end of the day, Ariel is one of my most worn cosplays, and I intend to make several more of her dresses, so having an on-theme bag is going to be really handy to take to conventions. But I'm kind of ready for this project to be over now, which is good because it nearly is. We have the sides done. Also, I realized I did the steam and stick and the cotton. I made interfacing. I could have just gone to the shops and brought interfacing. Instead, I made interfacing. We're not going to go there. So now the only thing left to do is to attach all of these pieces together, and hopefully that goes quite well. I have been experimenting with how I want the bag to sit, and what I have figured is that we're going to attach one string near the tail just above and one string at the top of the head, and he is going to hang over my shoulder like this. I always carry shoulder bags, so that should be fine. Otherwise, if I want hands free, he can just sit at my bum like that, and I have everything I need. Woohoo! I have started sewing the nose and mouth together. With these, I am doing a slightly smaller seam allowance than I have done stitching all of this, with the idea that this is going to sit tight over this, because there's a lot of spaces where there's no stuffing, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to sew it all together. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. We're going to get all of this attached and then put the zip on. Actually, that's a lie. We're going to get 3/4 of this attached and then we're going to put the zip on, because if I do the zip at the end, it's going to be a lot harder than if I just do it when I'm halfway through, and then I can just sew the stomach up and we can call it good. Also, so I'm also a bit of an idiot, because while I was trimming off all of the interfacing, I accidentally cut a hole in Flounder's bum. So I have fixed it with some cotton and some other scrap pieces of fabric, and then I've just zigzagged over the top of it, but it does mean that we now have this little line right here. It's fine. It's fine, it works, it's all good. Still, hopefully this will all come together fairly quick. Look how cute he's gonna be. I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, let's get on and finish it, eh?
Pinning and sewing the skin was fiddly, frustrating, and took so long. Also, it looked vaguely creepy, but eventually we were done. With just the top and bottom seam left, I decided to attach the zip in the top. For this, I decided to just sew it like a seam, putting it right side to right side with the top fin also attached, and then doing the same on the other side. It might have taken a few tries, even with Sherlock's help, but turned out fine in the end. Then we placed the tail and stitched up the base before turning it the right way around. And now for the fun part, putting the skin on the fish. Thankfully, as the bag was quite hollow, it was easily squished through the zip hole. From there, it was just a case of fiddling around with the placement, fiddling around quite a lot with the placement to be fair, until it all sat nicely. Then the final thing was to hand stitch the lining to the outside, either side of the zip. Could I have done this by machine? Probably, but by hand was neater and honestly easier. With that, we were one step closer to having my Ariel competition piece ready, and so let's have a look at the grand reveal of my Flounder bag. And FYI guys, every part of this outfit has its own video. You can watch them by themselves, or once this whole series is out, I will be posting a nice compilation of all of the makes together if you would rather wait for that. Well guys, I'm a very happy Flounder right now. I think this bag came out perfect. I've taken him to several conventions I wasn't even cosplaying to, and every time people have always asked me where I brought him, to which I can happily respond that I made him instead. He is the most practical animal companion, considering that I can put my phone and small shopping items inside him easily, and my only regret is not having a seashell or Little Mermaid keychain to add to the zip just to make it easier to open. For now, he does have this little piece of string, but I'm keeping an eye out to find something else to use, because let's face it, this isn't all that nice. Otherwise guys, if you wanted to make your own adorable Flounder, the pattern is available on both my Ko-Fi and my Patreon, and if you are a Patreon member, it comes free with access to my pattern library. I'm also currently working on a graded version of my Ariel Kiss the Girl dress and petticoat pattern, so keep an eye out for that, as it should be going up soon. If you enjoyed this fish themed video, I'd check out the making of my Flounder dress, which I am wearing at the moment, or take a look at my Making Cosplays playlist to find the rest of my Ariel videos, and even one where I made Vanessa. And with that guys, I hope you have a beautiful day. As always, a massive thank you goes out to my Patreons who make these videos possible: Canuck Nancy 42, Chandrila Webster, Anna, Ganny Meadows, and Kelly Nelson. I hope you guys enjoyed early access to this video, and as always, I couldn't run this channel without you. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.